What's going on? Welcome back to Off the Schneid. Today we're taking a look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, the number one overall selecting, again, Jacksonville Jaguars. We're looking at their draft needs heading into the 2022 NFL draft. Free agency's kind of wrapping up, trades are trickling in and petering out, that sort of a thing. Teams are starting to look forward to the draft in a couple weeks and shift their focus a little bit. So let's take a look at these Jaguars. You can see the draft needs there, their draft capital. They have, they're one of the teams that have the most selections. They have 12 picks in the NFL draft this year, including, like I said, that first overall selection. It's an interesting spot. I want to start there for a second at that first overall position, or draft position, whatever you want to call it. I think it's no secret, and obviously they're going to be answering every single phone call about that first overall pick. I don't particularly think they want it, if I'm being honest, but you're not going to give it away, that's for sure. So, we'll see what they do. They have a ton of options with that pick on what they want to do. Do they want to go after, an offensive tackle? An Evan Neal, somebody like that, right? And do they want to go after a left tackle? They have Cam Robinson back on the franchise tag, and Walker Little was a second-round pick last year. So I don't know. I don't know. Do they want to go after Aiden Hutchinson? In a 3-4 defense, he probably slides into the defensive end position here, where they have guys like Dwayne Smoot, who does play outside linebacker as well. Roy Robertson Harris. Do they go with Aiden Hutchinson at number one overall and slide him into inside? He's not, he's too big of a guy to play outside linebacker, in my opinion. So I think he slides into defensive end in a 3-4 defense. Do they want to go with Kayvon Thibodeau and have him play outside linebacker? That's I think a better fit, but do they really want to select him first overall? At that point, it doesn't really matter. You take who you think your best pick is, or who the best for your team is. It doesn't really, there's no reach, right? So I don't know. We'll see what they do with that first overall pick. It's going to be really interesting. And check back to my mock draft coming out in a couple weeks, about a week or so before the draft. See what I have the Jags ending up doing. But let's kick it off. We'll start at the quarterback position like we always do. We got Trevor Lawrence, who was the first overall selection last year. Had a decent year, and man, this team was just, it was doomed. This team was just doomed to fail. Urban Meyer was a bit of a joke and just not what this team needed whatsoever. I think that bringing in Doug Peterson, really settles a lot of things, and he's great with quarterbacks. I think he'll be great for Trevor Lawrence. It's gonna be a lot more, kind of a normal procedure and a normal process that some of these veteran players are more used to. Like, Marvin Jones was speaking out against Urban Meyer last year because the guy was doing some ridiculous things, saying some ridiculous things. He was a bit of a joke, if I'm being honest with you. So there you go. Doug Peterson comes in. I think he's going to be great for Trevor Lawrence. CJ Beathard and Jake Luton are still there. Sure, they're both fine to be the backup quarterback. I'm okay there. It's not a need. I don't address it whatsoever. Let's move to the running back position. James Robinson, tore his Achilles. He was a fantastic, diamond in the rough, undrafted free agent, was pushing at being, back-to-back 1,000-yard rusher before the injury came. And I think he's still just a quality running back in the NFL. He can definitely be the starter. Obviously, we saw him be the starter on a really bad team and have success. And then Travis Etienne, who tore his Achilles as well, before the season last year. He's coming back healthy. And, I think he can be a quality guy as well. So that's a 1-2 punch, where, Travis Etienne's going to catch a lot more balls, might play a little bit of slot, stuff like that. And then James Robinson can be your pounder between the tackles type of a guy. So that's a great 1-2 punch, and they can complement each other. I think they're going to have to grab a guy. I don't have it as a team need, but they have a ton of draft capital. So they can, with one of those 6-round picks, grab a guy, that can play on your team. They haven't really had much for backup running backs in Jacksonville for a fair amount of years. That changes this year with, the James Robinson, being a guy, and then Travis Etienne coming in as a first-round pick. But now they're going to have to grab a guy to be that number 3. But again, it's not a huge issue. Grab one in the 6th round, not a big deal. You can still get good value at running back in the 6th round of the NFL draft. Let's move to tight end. Evan Ingram comes in. I think that was a phenomenal grab. Tight ends have really succeeded in Doug Peterson-led offenses. So I like Evan Ingram as a tight end in fantasy. I have him a fair amount in best ball, stuff like that, as well as Dan Arnold. I have a little bit of him in best ball as well. He was a former wide receiver in college. He's not a blocker whatsoever, but they got Chris Mannertz and Luke Farrell. They can both be quality blockers, the blocking tight ends, and I think that rounds out the room. But Dan Arnold and Evan Ingram are both quality, talented pass-catching tight ends. Evan Ingram can do a little more than Dan Arnold can as far as the blocking game is concerned, but both very, very good weapons in my opinion for this offense. Moving to the offensive line. Jawan Taylor, I really like his right tackle. He's fantastic. They brought in Brandon Sheriff, who can absolutely lead this offense. He replaces AJ Cann. Ben Barch is listed here as the starting left guard, and then Cam Robinson comes back on the franchise tag, like I said. So if they draft a left tackle at first overall, does that play, like whoever that is, let's call it Evan Neal, does he slide into left guard? I don't know. If it's me and I end up taking, Hutchinson or Thibodeau at first overall, which I think are both more likely scenarios if I'm being honest, I take Walker Little and slide him into left guard and have him as my starting left guard. He played well, in spurts. Ben Barch is okay too. I'm not trying to dog on Ben Barch whatsoever. And if he can play center, I don't think he can particularly. I don't think he's going to be a center. Then slide him over there. But, and then Ben Barch is kind of your swing interior lineman sort of a thing, and if there's an injury to Cam Robinson or Jawan Taylor, you can move Walker Little and then slide Ben Barch in there. So that provides quality depth. But obviously my number one need, there's a huge black hole there at center. They need a center. They're going to have to draft a guy that is going to be their starter this year. Quite clearly, that's not going to be first overall, but at 33, 65, 70, any of those four picks at the 106 maybe, you have to have one. I think that this team has to draft a center that they believe can be the starting center for the right now and future for this team within those first 4 rounds. If they don't have a center, I'll be shocked, and they must have grabbed a guy in free agency. I'm not sure, I'm sure there's some vets out there that they could bring in, but you're going to need a guy. That's why I also have offensive line as, the second need. That's just depth. They need to add some depth here. So it's whether it's another center in free agency and they draft a center swing guard type of guy, sure, you could do that, but they're going to need some depth. And it depends on what they do at first overall. But personally, I don't look on the offensive line at first overall. And that's just me. Like I said, black hole at center. Other than that, they have some depth, but they're going to need some more. You're going to have to protect that quarterback. You're going to have to protect Trevor Lawrence. Absolutely. And they do have it right now, but Cam Robinson might not be back after this year with the franchise tag there, but then probably Walker Little slides in, then it becomes a bit more of a need next year's draft and so on and so forth. But, check back next year and we'll talk about that when it comes. Moving to the wide receiver position, Christian Kirk comes on a huge contract, so they must really believe in him. I do really like Christian Kirk. I do. I think he's super underrated. I think that there's just so many weapons in Arizona last year that, he kind of got buried a little bit, and it's just the way that they ran their offense through Nuke Hopkins. It's not shocking that it kind of fizzled out a little bit towards the end of the season after he was injured. But I think that Christian Kirk can absolutely be a 1,000-yard receiver. Whether he's that true number one alpha type guy, no, I don't think he is, but he can absolutely be a very good number 2 wide receiver. They have him penciled in as the slot guy. Yeah, I suppose, but I probably play him on the outside. I don't have him being my slot guy. If I'm being honest, I'd probably rather have Laviska Shenault as my slot receiver, but we'll see how it all shakes out because they have a lot of depth. If I'm looking at a true alpha wide receiver on this team, it's probably Marvin Jones. He's still he's still a quality player. He's another guy that gets overlooked by people. I comp him to some of the rookies coming in and I get heat for it because, I don't know, he's not a sexy name, I guess, but he's a very, very quality wide receiver and he's done it for a lot of years and he can still get the job done as he showed last year. So we'll see how that shakes out. Zay Jones, quality guy. He's an NFL He's an NFL wide receiver. That's just, he's nothing super special, but he is an NFL wide receiver. He's a quality depth guy. Jamal Agnew was a pleasant surprise. He played well, but I believe he tore his ACL or tore an Achilles, one of the two, but, year-ending injury last year. Laviska Shenault, hopefully he can take that step this year and kind of be that guy. He had a quality rookie year. He stayed the same, but didn't have any touchdowns. His targets went up a little bit, a couple more catches, same amount of yards, but 0 touchdowns. So he's got to step that up. And whether he slides into the slot, plays outside, runs the ball a little bit, maybe plays a little Debo. I hate people comparing anybody to Debo, but if he does play a little bit of that type of role, then he can do that. Laquan Treadwell, he played a little bit here and there. That's definitely a first round wide receiver bust. You can give him that label, absolutely. But he had a bit of a resurgence last year. So we'll see how it works out for him this coming season. I think they're fine at wide receiver. Realistically, you can go throughout the season with these guys. And, especially with the weapons you have at tight end, and you're going to be okay with Travis Etienne coming back as well, being able to catch the ball to the backfield, potentially line up in the slot as well, especially once James Robinson comes back. These two could be on the field at the same time a lot of times. So there you go. There's the offense. There's the offense for the Jaguars. Let's move to the defensive side of the ball. Like I said, that first overall pick, he's going to be on that defensive line, somewhere, whether it's Hutchinson as a defensive end or Thibodeau as an outside linebacker. But bringing in Fatou Kassi, that's a fantastic get. I really am a big fan of his. I think he's a quality, bit of an underrated player. Malcolm Brown can definitely still get the job done. Davon Hamilton, Jay Tufele didn't really play much last year, but I think they're quality guys. They'll both get a chance to, take a step forward again this year. Dwayne Smoot, I really like. He had, second on the team in sacks, I think, behind Josh Allen. He was very good. He plays a little bit outside linebacker. He's not exactly a big body guy. He can be that outside pass rusher, edge rusher. You could play him at D end, I suppose, and he's not gonna hurt you there. But I like him more as an outside linebacker. Arden Key comes in. Josh Allen's still there. Kayvon Chason. Yeah, they just keep. It's a weird thing with the Jacksonville Jaguars defense. They just keep throwing talent, and it is quality talent at this defense, but nobody seems to stick. Joe Schobert, Miles Jack are now gone. They flow through defense cornerbacks. It's weird. It's just, it doesn't make sense. It's like they're searching for something or someone, which is fine, but hopefully you got to hit at some point, kind of a thing. I do think that they've brought in some good quality players. Josh Allen is fantastic. He's a very, very, very good edge rusher. Kayvon Chason just hasn't gotten there, and this is basically, the year. If he doesn't do anything this year, they're going to have to move on from him. So maybe they do draft Kayvon Thibodeau and bring him in and replace Kayvon Chason that way. Arden Key, like I said, he comes in. He had a career year last year with the 49ers. I think he'll be better as an outside linebacker than a defensive end, hand in the dirt type of a guy. So there's quality on this defense. There's just not a lot of difference makers. There's a lot of quality depth type of guys. Josh Allen's probably your best difference maker on this defense by a fair margin. And that's not saying anything bad about this defense. It's a quality unit. It's just they gotta put it together a little bit. It just is what it is. Let's move back. Anyone else I missed on? Not really. Robertson Harris, he's good. He had a few sacks. That's quality. Linebackers, again, they've just been cycling through these guys. Foye Olakun comes in from the Falcons. He's very good. I really, really like him as a linebacker. I'm not really sure, why the Falcons let him walk. They do have some other, Deion Jones probably plays a lot of the same type of packages that Olakun would excel in as well. So that's probably why. But regardless, I really, really like him as a linebacker. I think he's fantastic. I think he'll be the best on this team. And then Shaq Quarterman hopefully gets a shot to be the starting linebacker. I liked him quite a bit coming out of college. I liked him quite a bit there. So if he can be the guy, great. Tyrell Adams, he can be, a quality backup guy. He can start in a pinch, but I think they're really hoping that Shaq Quarterman can be that starter. If not, I do have it as a need. so you can, but it's obviously towards the back end. So they could grab a guy in the 6th round. It's not a huge need. Maybe with the 5th round pick, grab a linebacker, because they did lose, a lot of their Damian Wilson. He's gone as well. So they lost a lot of production at that position. So I think you just need to address it, but it's not a huge need. Same with the edge. The edge and defensive line, I have all those 3 right there for a good reason, because whatever they do at first overall, it satisfies a lot of those needs. Even the defensive line and edge, if they take either Thibodeau or Hutchinson, that satisfies both of those, in my opinion. I'm not concerned about either. So they're in a weird spot, and they're not a crazy amount of needs realistically. I've liked this. If you watch my channel for a long time, you know that I've liked the Jags roster for a lot of years. They got a lot of good pieces. They just can't put it together, and they got to put it together eventually. Maybe with the coaching change, Doug Peterson can get the best out of these guys. We'll see. But they got a lot of pieces. These holes and these needs, they're not extreme. Realistically, center is the only spot where they're really, really hurting, and they absolutely need a guy. Other than that, they're pretty quality. So there you go. Let's move back to the corners. Again, they've been cycling through these guys a little bit. Tyson Campbell, 2nd round pick last year. Shaq Griffin had a good year. Darius Williams comes from the Super Bowl winning Rams, and he's a quality player. Rudy Ford's still there. Trey Herndon, they're quality there. Chris Claybrooks, they could grab a guy in the draft, or maybe more likely grab a veteran guy in free agency. But realistically, I think they're okay at corner. They have some talent there. Again, they just got to put it all together. Same thing with safety. Rayshawn Jenkins, they paid a boatload of money to. Daniel Thomas is still there. He's okay. Andre Sisco was a 3rd round pick last year. And then Andrew Wingard, was 2nd or 3rd on this team in tackles last year. So there's a lot of talent here. There is a lot of depth. They just don't have a ton of real difference makers, at least from a production standpoint. We just haven't seen it yet. So we'll see. Maybe if Tyson Campbell is a shutdown, lockdown corner, Josh Allen is that guy, and then they grab Hayden Hutchinson 1st overall. There you go. You got a difference maker on every level now, but we got to see that production happen. I think it's there for Josh Allen already, but we got to see it from someone else in some other places on this defense. So there you go. That's it. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think that there's a lot of room for this team to move around, potentially get back into the 1st round if they so desire, and we'll see. I might mock them to do something like that come a couple weeks here, but let me know what you think in the comments. There's your draft prep and team breakdown for the 2022 Jacksonville Jaguars.